यूपीएससी के अकॉर्डिंग इम्पॉर्टेंट कंटेंट पाने के लिए ईजी क्लासेस को ज़रूर सब्सक्राइब कर लें और बेल आइकन भी प्रेस कर दें जिससे कि नोटिफिकेशन मिलता रहे।
Good morning everyone. Today we have been discussing our taboos in previous class. Dewey, American thinkers, and the Taboos. Dewey and Taboos. They have, described the ways of enforcing the customs, and some of them we have already discussed. And okay, let me switch office first, and then we can move now. Yeah, it's all right. So today we have been discussing our taboos, and the ways to enforce the customs. Ways to enforce the customs. And this concept is described by your Dewey, is the American philosopher, and Dewey and Tufts are two philosophers. They have described the ways. The first thing we have discussed already, that social approval. Social approval is very, very important thing, this social approval. And so this is the second we have discussed the taboos, taboos. And as far as the taboos are concerned, this is the beginning of tribal religion. Taboos are defined over there that it is related with unseen power. It is a negative kind of custom. It's a kind of censor. It's a kind of penalty. It's a means of the punishment. And so it's a means of punishment. And through punishment, and there is provisions. What are the taboos? There are provisions. What are the provisions? For example, newly born babies should not be touched. Dead bodies should not be touched. Priests should not be touched. So these are the taboos commonly accepted in different customs, in tribal customs. But now they have been almost discarded. So earlier it has been in a practice, in a common practice. So these are the taboos, and they are the negative customs. They enforce the people, they enforce the individuals to perform some actions. Okay, so this is taboos. And then comes to your rituals. And the rituals are also very important. The rituals are also very important. So there are kind of, the rituals means the social activities. Social activities are also, there is association among the individuals, and they share their sentiments. When there is a group dance, group song, all culture activities, and all cultural activities. In fact, this is related with your culture, and that's the beginning of culture. It's the beginning of religion, and it's the beginning of your culture. Group base of acting. So we can say this is beginning of your religion. That's very interesting. And this is beginning of your culture. Source of your culture. Okay, and now then after that, after rituals, surest base, the physical force, coercion or coercive action, or you can say the physical force. This physical force is the surest way. Ultimately, the physical force is the surest way to ensure the customs. If suppose someone violates the customs, he will be punished. By whom? By the custodian of the society, custodian of the customs. And who are the custodians? Who are the custodians? Priest, old men, women, old men and women, and priests. They are generally defined as the custodian of customs, and they are known as authority in customary morality. So they are known as authority in customary morality because they have power to punish the individuals in case of violation of any customs or any customary morality. I think we understand, and I think understand. So it's a physical force, and okay, these are the way to enforce the customs, okay. And now we can move to our customary morality and the reflective morality. Now we are going to discuss how the reflective morality emerged, and but in order to describe how the reflective morality emerged, we have to again just focus on the customary morality. What is the essence of customary morality? Just try to understand. As you know, the customary morality. Now we are going to discuss the customary morality. Customary morality versus customary morality versus reflective morality. Versus reflective morality. Just try to understand. And now, first we will try to understand this customary morality. The very first thing, it is exposed from outside. There is some authority. And so the first thing, what's the essence right now we are trying? So there are the authorities, There are authorities, and authorities, the custodians are known as authority. So these authorities have power to punish the individuals, and so there are the authorities, and and the essence of morality, but we know, and so authority punishes, the individuals. Just try to understand. Members of, better to call it members of society. We call them members of society. Members of society. So authority has power to punish the individuals. Okay, and now then what happens actually? As earlier we have discussed, that slowly and gradually, when the reason is developed, what is reason? When the reason is developed, human reason is developed, so there is a conflict between the authority and liberty. So there is a conflict between authority and liberty. Individual claims liberty. Why individual claims liberty? Because of the development of reason and because of the development of social development. So there are some agencies, there are two kinds of agencies, social agencies and psychological agencies, which have replaced this customary morality and given given a place for your reflective morality. So your reflective morality replaced customary morality because of the development of reason. So we will discuss the development of reason right now over here. I mean to say that at particular this point, and so come back to the point now. So what's the essence of the customary morality? There are the contradictions. The first important thing is there is a conflict between authority and liberty. Second thing, this is in fact the prime factor. This is the main factor. And why it happens? Why there is a conflict among authority and liberty? Okay, because of the development of reason. And and there are some other factors. What are other factors? Inconsistencies. So general inconsistencies. As you know, there are the customs are generally inconsistent. Customary morality is generally inconsistent. For example, the monogamy is accepted, celebrated in your Islamic culture. Polygamy is celebrated in your Islamic culture, but it is prohibited in Christianity. In Christianity, there is no permission for polygamy. Polygamy is taken as immoral. There is a monogamy, and also in your Hinduism there is a monogamy. So this is many social customaries, still you can examine them, and even in our Hinduism there are so many setbacks, so many flaws. Later on we will be discussing. Right now we are discussing the inconsistencies, and you understand. So there are also some contradictions, and these inconsistencies and contradictions ultimately ends into blood feud. So because when there is a conflict, so this conflict ultimately, this inconsistencies and the contradictions are the cause of conflicts among the authority and liberty. So once there is the conflict, it ultimately ends into blood feuds. That's the essence of. So it ultimately ends into a blood feud. I think you understand. Because of the inconsistencies and contradictions, there is no uniformity and there is no consistency. Customary morality is not based on universal principles. Customary morality is based on utility and the kind of utility, not based on reason. So now it's the emergence of reason. And why? What's the reason why this customary morality has been replaced? Earlier we have been discussing. Just see what are the factors. Just try to understand. These are the reasons, and now with the development of reason, first came into your economic development is also very important. Economic development is very important. It's economic development which make men free, and with the economic development, right now, just let me see. Social agencies, there are the social agencies. We call them social and psychological agencies. Social and psychological agencies. Right now we are discussing the social agencies who have replaced the customary morality by the reflective morality, who have been the cause which have been the cause, Now come back to point. So the first thing, social and psychological. Economic development. It was the economic development which make the men free to think. We are not going to discuss the complete Renaissance. This is economic. How this economic development came into existence? It came into existence only because of the development of science and science and technology. It has been developed through the development of science and technology. Science and tech. You know, with the development of science and technology, the world, this earlier norms have been changed. The farmer customaries have been changed. Or the social structure and social system has been changed. And also the science development of scientific knowledge has also exposed the superstition and dogmatism of religions and customaries. So that has opened that there is no unseen power, there is no fear, and there is the essence of customary morality is just two, the fear of unseen power and the blood feud. That's the essence of customary morality. But now with the development of science and technology, the social system, social structure has changed completely. And so you understand. And third thing, let me go fast. Science and tech, economic development and industrial development, you can say. Science, and we are discussing science and technology for the sake of knowledge. And over here, industrial development. This industrial development, broken up the social structure, joint family broken up, and that paved the room for individualism. And as you know that the individualism is the essence of liberalism. Individualism is the essence of liberalism. So it paved the room for individualism. Just try to understand. You must understand it, and you must know that the individualism is the essence of early liberalism. That's individualistic. Yes, of course, the later liberalism is collective or social, you can say. But as far as the early liberalism is concerned, that's completely individualistic. So it paved, and is still your individualism of liberalism, prevail in society. Still it prevails in your society. And it's not only, it doesn't only prevail in your society, it's going on. And okay, it's developing on, it's increasing on. So this is your individualism, and in this individualism, later on we will discuss with political thought how this individualism is. And now, so this individualism is, and all these developments are only because of the reason and a free thought. So it was a reason and a free thought that has paved the room for reflective morality. So, and what is reason? Just reason comes out of the interaction of individuals. Just try to understand. It is an outcome of the social interaction. It's a social product. You will be surprised to know. And that's why your UPSC has put in your syllabus that ethics, essence, now you have seen the essence of customary morality. Not the essence of reflective morality, we will discuss later on. Another second thing, after just essence in your syllabus, right now we are discussing the basics of ethics, that's why we are not going in your syllabus now, but still just I want to give you the reference for the sake of your understanding and for the sake of your right understanding. So this is your morality, and the essence of customary morality you have seen, the blood feud and the fear. Okay. And now we have been discussing this reason, and this reason has been the prime cause of all these development. So the reason was the prime cause of, and so reason tries to find out the moral principle underlying among moral ideas. So it's a reason which tries to find out the underlying principles or principle, whatever you say, principles among are of moral ideas. So it's the reason, and we have been discussing the development of reason. Development of reason comes through social interaction. You will be surprised to know social interaction, and that's why your social interaction has put in your syllabus. That has been put in your syllabus. Why? Okay, so interaction, it comes through the social interaction. So your reason is the development of social interaction, and that is why in your syllabus human interface, it is known as human interface. This is defined in your syllabus, human interface. This human interface is nothing but the, and you will be surprised to know, that's why Kant have also emphasized at this particular point that practical reason is superior to pure reason. Practical reason means what? When an individual interacts with others or with other individual, now this individual both learns with each other. So the right learning comes from the interaction, interface, otherwise theory, and that's the difference between theory and practice. So any theory which, when it is put into practice, only then you can justify. No matter how well learned you are, and but learning by doing. But when you do something, then you learn. So it's a kind of the learning which comes from doing. So the basic thing is human interaction is very important, and it develops your reason. Because when you interact with others, then you know their own way of the dealing with the subject, or dealing with the other individuals. So, and then you understand, so this is the thing, this is the right way. And so this is the development of reason, it's a development of human reason, and ultimately human reason tries to find out the universal principles of morality. So that's okay. So what's the source of universal principles of morality? Now come back. Now what's the source of, just try to understand. Now we are going to discuss the source of the underlying principles of morality. The locus. This locus is nothing but the customs, that is known as the transcend from custom to transcend, from custom to conscience. Just try to understand, it's a new element, conscience. This is conscience. This is the source of, in fact, conscience is the source of your morality. Conscience is the source of morality. Ultimately, there is, ultimately this is the essence of reason. This is a faculty of your reason. This is one of the faculty of reason. So we have the moral consciousness, and the sense of moral consciousness, or the consciousness of moral consciousness, is realized through conscience. So conscience is another, is a faculty within our reason, where the prime notion of good is located, or you can say lies. So the prime notion of good lies in our conscience, and it's our conscience which always tells us what is right and what is wrong, and what is good and what is evil. So with the development of conscience, later on again we will be discussing what is conscience and how it is developed. We will discuss with conscience, but right now just keep in your mind that it is conscience which is the source of reflective morality. So conscience is source of reflective morality. Reflective morality. So it's the source of reflective morality. Okay, so in such a way we have understood what is the customary morality and what is your reflective morality. Still we have to emphasize on this reflective morality. We will discuss later on, but still we have to discuss the development of the external laws. When we will be discussing the morality is commanded from as a standard of external laws, then after that you will be able to understand that what is the reflective morality. But let us discuss further now the morality as a standard of external law. Just try to understand. Now next thing we are going to discuss the morality as standard of external laws. Try to understand. It was J. Moorhead J. Moorhead was the person who have in fact discussed 3 stages from transcendence of the customary morality to reflective morality, or from external laws to internal laws of conscience. But before going to that, just we will discuss only in a short. There are 2 stages. First, it is in fact the external law which governs the men. So it's external law, and external law, the many external laws are there. What are the many external laws? Are the tribal. First, it was a tribal, and second, the social external laws, or you can say the external law for society, external law for tribe, and this tribal is also known as tribunal. So tribunal and social, and then political, and then religious, then political, and then religious. And it is also known as the laws of society, laws of political authority or a state, laws of state, and laws of God. So it is known as laws of tribunal, it's the laws of your society, and it's the laws of your state, and it's the laws of your God. So these are the external laws. Try to understand. And before going to them, let us first understand what are the external laws. The external laws, these are the agencies, these are the authorities who impose the external laws to individuals, to each member of society. But first see the J. Moorhead. So Moorhead has said that first thing what happens actually, it comes from the outside. External law comes from outside, and either of any one of them is the agency which imposes the laws on individuals. Laws on individuals, and but it has some defects. What is it? Is exposed from outside, and these are the agencies, these are the authorities, but it has some defects. What it has a defect? Because of some defects earlier we have discussed, the inconsistencies and contradictions, and any morality which is exposed from outside ultimately ends into either it creates the fear, the threat, or it create and ultimately ends into the blood feud. So but what happens as far as these social issues are moral issues are concerned, ultimately man goes to its own conscience, individual goes to its own conscience. So first stage is the imposed from outside, then second stage, this is the first stage, and then it goes to second stage. At according to Moorhead, just we can sum up in two stages, no problem. The first one is imposed by, this morality is imposed by society, the tribes and state and a god. So, but come on the point, but ultimately it goes, it's a source of conscience, ultimately it goes to reflective morality, and the source is defined as conscience. Just there are only two stages. And what are the defects? Main point why we are discussing this one, for the defects of this customary morality. Earlier we have discussed the causes, the factors which facilitated for the occurrence of your reflective morality. But now we are going to discuss not the causes, not the factors, but the defects. What are the defects? Just try to understand. Okay, leave that. Now we are going to discuss the defects. Defects, the first thing, external laws comes from outside. It comes from outside. It is, and that's why there is always a conflict between authority and liberty. Second thing, in most of cases it is based on coercion, or it is always with the promises of reward and the threats of punishment. So it is imposed by the rewards and punishment. And the morality which is imposed by the punishment or reward is not a true morality, because it makes a room for it makes a room for your personal interest, vested interest, prudence. But as when we perform something because of the reward and because of the punishment, so that's not a true morality. And why it's not true morality? Because it is, it emphasizes your personal interest, vested interest. It emphasizes your personal interest, vested interest, and it kind of virtue of prudence. It emphasizes the virtue of prudence, but not the benevolence. And the true morality is all about the benevolence, not about the prudence. And again, it is, so these are two main problems why it is known as, why the customary morality, and again it's a human region. Consistencies, contradictions, all the things we have already discussed in detail. The contradictions are there, inconsistencies are there, and many other things, the kind of and again along with these 4 theories we will be discussing. So now come first, as a first point, the tribal tribes or tribunal. First, the external law as a tribes, external law for tribes. And tribe. As you know, there is a tribunal, and tribunal in every tribe, even still we can perceive they have some rituals, certain rituals they have, certain taboos they have, and certain, your taboos, rituals, and what else they have? Tribe. Threat and punishment, rituals, punishment, approval, and threats and punishments, and punishment and approval, appraisal. This approval is kind of appraisal. More or less, these are the reason. More or less, these are the reason why how they impose the external law from outside. But as we know that any external law which comes from, and this tribal, it begins how it begins. It begins with it's a kind of unconscious and imitative. So the source of this customary morality or the tribal morality is based on unconscious. So it is unconscious and imitative. Unconsciousness and imitativeness. And imitativeness are the source of this imitativeness, are the source of this morality. There is, it depends on suggestibility. The individual takes the manners and customs, religion and a language from a particular tribe, and the custodian of this morality, this customary morality, that's the beginning of your morality, are defined as authorities, and they have right to punish the individuals. So they have right to punish the individuals. These are the things, and these are the essence of even the external law of a society. Again, there is the same thing. The approval is there, and your threats are there, but except the taboos, rituals are there, and social now. So this is let me first we are discussing this unconscious imitativeness, and but ultimately, what's the essence of tribal morality, tribal customary morality? It ends into the fear, because this taboos and threats and punishment, these are the cause of fear and blood feud. So essence of this is the essence of your customary social morality. Now then comes your social morality. Now the next one is the external law of society. External law as a standard of morality. External law of society as a standard of morality. So next one is the society. What happens in society? In society, again there is approval and disapproval. Interesting thing is, that's a big tribal was just a beginning. Now in a society, what happens? There are some certain social norms. Just try to understand. There are some certain social norms, and these social norms or values are not written. They exist in society. They are imperceptible threats. They can't be perceived. But the moment when you all violate the social norms, you can perceive. For example, suppose an individual is daring to marry, to marry intercaste marriage, to get the intercaste marriage. Now go in a society, now go in a traditional society, now go in an Indian traditional society like UP and Bihar. Then you will examine, then you will face the kind of the threat. Only then, when individual violates the social norms, unwritten, imperceptible social threats, because these norms are kind of protector of the social fabric. So there is a kind of social fabric. This social fabric is protected by the social norms. So once you violate the social norms, then you know. So this is the first thing. There are some certain social norms. Even these social norms are not written. Even these social norms are not written. And of course, they are protected by the seniors. Of course, they are protected by some agencies and some institutions also. Earlier, there have been a the regular practice of panchayat, and even the panchayat, the concept of panchayat, constitutional panchayat I am talking about, has been developed from the social panchayat. This political concept emerged from the social. Okay. So these norms are protected by the society, by the custodians of the society. So there are the institutions, not only agencies but institutions also. They protect these social norms, they protect these social rules. So these social rules, these social norms are protected by the custodians and agencies, institutions, authorities and institutions. Okay, so another point is, as you know, there is approval and disapproval of action. Of course, just like it is coming from your tribal culture, so there will be some element of a tribal culture. So there is approval. There is approval, social approval, I mean to say. There is a social approval. This social and of course this social approval is the main cause, because it gives a kind of satisfaction. It gives a kind of pleasure, sense of pleasure when someone is, someone is appraised, someone is rewarded. So action of any individual is approved, then he feels kind of pleasure in society. He feels kind of honor, prestige. Go in a society. When someone is honored and prestiged publicly, then then he gets a kind of satisfaction, great satisfaction. So there is approval, and as well as there is a disapproval, social boycott, excommunication. So excommunication is there, social boycott is there, and even there are certain rules. They set aside that particular person from rituals. So these are the ways, you understand. So there is approval and disapproval. There is also element, and the laws of society, external laws are as standard, and these are main 2 points. And of course, still there is a concept of reward and punishment. It works through the concept of reward and punishment. It works through. The basic essence is the same: reward and punishment. reward and punishment. So still, but now it is not in a practice except the Haryana, where there is a Khap Panchayat. So Khap Panchayat is the best example of the external law of society, as a standard of morality. So Khap Panchayat is the best example. And some other examples are, of course, there are some other examples are there, but the thing is the Khap Panchayat, just keep in mind. So social norms, approval, and reward and punishment. Reward and punishment. And so these are the your external law as a society. So society becomes authority and agency. Social norms are there, social institutions are there. Okay, there are three threads, and it is imperceptible, unseen, but they are very strong, can't be violated. Whether it is, the best example is intercaste marriage and inter-religion marriage. Okay, so this is the society. Now come to the next point. And even your, also there is example of your this Varna Ashrama, Varna system. Varna system is still your caste system, the strongest one, still prevails in a society, in your traditional society, in remote areas, in the villages of India. Okay, so you know this is, and now come to the next one, is a state. Now we are going to discuss this state. External law of a state as the standard of morality. So let me first. Now we are going to discuss the state. And you know, it's a state which imposes its rules through political laws. So there are, you know, the political laws. Political laws, and through it governs the people. It governs the behavior of people, and it was the Hobbes is the person. Later on we will be discussing that Hobbes over here. He is the man who says that whatever is said by Hobbes is. What Hobbes is? Hobbes is anything which is said by the state is the ultimate supreme authority. The command of state is the ultimate law. The command of state, Hobbes is the man. I have said that command of law is the ultimate morality. Command of the state, better to say. Command of state is the last jurisdiction, is the last Supreme Court. It is a Supreme Court. Command of state is the Supreme Court, is the Supreme Court. So in such a manner, he says that whatever is said by the state is the final judgment. Now it is becoming in your, now it is existing in your India. What is said by the state is the final law. For example, you can take the example of Rama temple, or anything which is once decided by the state, individual has no right to violate it. Prashant Bhushan is a very interesting example, well, but we will discuss later on. Right now we are just trying to understand the basics of ethics, because once you understand the basics of ethics, only then you can deal with the current affairs, current issues. So Hobbes was the person, and again we will come on this particular point, how Hobbes have elaborated, how he has emphasized and described that a state, the law of the state is the ultimate authority. The law of the state is the ultimate authority. So there is a rule of law that is described in your constitution. the rule of law. No one is above to law. Okay, so Hobbes, this is, and now, so how a state is gives, and but the thing is, it is based on, also based on, this political law is based on the coercion. What is the, it is based on coercion, or better to say, yeah, coercion and penalties and threats all, So there is concept of punishment. It is imposed through the coercion, and it comes from outside. So there is a coercion, and this is the first thing. Second thing, and it also comes from outside, And what is else? What else is there? What else is there? Political laws, Hobbes, command of a state, and the coercion or coercive action. But yeah, this state can create only the must, and all external laws can create only the must, but not, can create only the must, but not your art. Morality is all about art. It's a notion of art, not the must. So all these external standards imposes morality from outside, and the morality is imposed from outside is not a true morality. Morality is self-determined. Morality is command of conscience. Later on we will be discussing. Right now we are discussing the first aspect. The second aspect we will discuss later on. We will be discussing now. Come back. So must, coercion, it is based on the coercion, and this is law of your state. The law of state is defined as the standard of morality, but the thing is based on the coercion, creates must, but we know that the essence of morality is art, comes from political, and that was the only reason. That's why it's a social and political behavior has been classified and discriminated, and the morality, as far this is the emergence of law, in fact. But right now we cannot discuss, and right now we cannot go in detail how the law came into existence, but that is not subject matter right now. So right now the subject matter is, it behaves. Now the social and state, you have the society and state, the external law as a society and a state. Now they govern only our social and political behavior. Social and political behavior. Political behavior of men. But as far as the moral behavior is concerned, left out. Moral behavior is a personal matter. Now, for moral action you can appreciate someone, and for immoral act you can criticize someone, but you cannot punish now. As far as the concept of punishment is concerned, that is related with law. That's the difference between, that's the basic difference between the law and morality. Okay, even your law is rooted in morality when the Austin have developed this law. Later on we will be discussing if possible. And now, so this is the state, this is the society. Laws of external laws of a state and a society, when taken as the standard of morality, can create only the must, not the ought, and are based on the coercion or a coercive action, and that's not the true morality. And still, let us discuss the last point of this topic is the morality of a God. Morality defined as a standard of religion. Our external laws of God is defined as, as the standard of morality. And there are two great thinkers. One, just try to understand. One, there is Descartes. Many thinkers, but we have to discuss only few of them. Descartes and Locke are the main thinkers. Earlier we have discussed Hobbes with the state. And now with religion or with God, God is also taken as the source of morality, Generally people say I am God fearing. Fine. But just try to understand. And first let us discuss the viewpoint of Descartes and Locke. Descartes and Locke says that the God is the conservator of morality. God is the sustainer of morality. He is the sustainer, conservator. He is the conservator. And he is the conservator of morality. He is the sustainer of morality. And sustainer of morality, conservator of morality is the embodiment of morality. In fact, it's an embodiment of morality. It's the embodiment of morality. And so God is, He holds the morality. And later on we will be discussing, earlier you have already discussed the religion, the relation between religion and morality. And you can recall it right now. God is defined as the locus of morality. And God is also defined as the locus of religion. Anything more than God cannot be thought. Anything more than God is not possible. And anything less than God is irrational. We will be discussing. But now the thing is, God is defined as, for Descartes, and command of God. So morality is defined as a command of God. So whatever God says, the command of God. And command of God is the morality. So it's God's will. But there is interesting debate. But right now we cannot go in debate this will, God's will. God's will is defined as the source of morality. But there is a problem. Many problems are there. First thing, God, the very first problem. This is a theistic morality. Theistic morality. And this is not a correct morality. Why? We will discuss later on. The man who is a God fearing, if there is no God, just see, in a very brief, if there is no God, for example, suppose one who doesn't believe in God, then everything will be permissible. Because God is defined as the source of morality. Once the God is defined as the source of morality, and suppose there is an individual who doesn't believe in the existence of God, and if he does not believe in existence of God, then of course everything is permissible for him, because he doesn't believe in God. Because he doesn't believe in God. So that's a question, because God is a matter of belief. No one knows about the God. So you understand. So God fearing, but of course it has its own merit. Of course it has its own virtue. Of course it is better than those who completely believe in immorality. At least they are God fearing. At least they worship the God, and this is the biggest, up to larger extent, or you can say up to maximum extent. This is fine, this is correct. But right now we are not going to right now we are discussing, we have to come on the secular morality. That's it. Even your entire Indian thought describes this theistic morality. It's only Western thought which I have described, which have paved the room for secular morality. But we will discuss later on. Right now, okay, so God's will, why? The God's will cannot be accepted as a good. and it cannot be accepted as a good, because once it is accepted, God's will accepted as a good, it's a kind of arbitrary. So God's wills cannot be arbitrary. It cannot be arbitrary, you know. Why it cannot be arbitrary? God is bound to have a good will. Why God is good? If God is, why he cannot have, his will cannot be arbitrary? Why is he bound to have a good will? Just try to understand. There is a sound logic there. There is very sound argument. Why God is bound to have a good notion of good? Why? Because that's the very essence of God. That's the very essence of God means, you understand? If he is not good, if his will is not good, then he will be regarded as a demon. Then he loses its own name. So this name is given only particular this Almighty has to be good, otherwise it will be called demon. That's the logic behind it, that's the argument behind it, and that is why we say that good is superior. We cannot say that good is superior to God. You cannot say. Even there is a, ultimately you have to accept that both are identical. That's it. But right now we cannot discuss. Right now just see the case that theistic morality is not a true morality. Morality is based on human reason. Human reason is a source of morality. Why? Many logics are there. Because, okay, so right now come back to the point. So this is Descartes and Locke, and has been rejected by this. It has been criticized by Kant. You know, Kant is a great person, great philosopher who have developed this one. And it's not only your Descartes and Locke. It is rooted in Plato's thought. It's a Plato firstly who have said that God's will is good, and Kant have not challenged the Descartes and Locke. Kant have challenged to Plato. So he has challenged Plato. Okay, come back to the point. So this is again the external laws. It is also based on, the basic thing is based on the fear and punishment, fear and reward. Fear and reward of God. The person who is a God fearing or who believes in God is a moral because of this thing. But you know, if he has no, and that is why he permits many times that God doesn't perceive, God doesn't know. Anyway, but right now we are not going to discuss that. So these are your external laws when they are defined as the standard of morality. But we know this is not the standard of morality. Why they cannot be regarded as standard? The standard of morality as a standard of morality, because it's a coercive. It comes from outside. It's not. Morality is self-deterministic. It cannot be determined from outside. No one can force you to be moral. Think over it. Because the law can create only the must. Think over it. No one can make you moral from outside. Yes, of course, there is a great significance of penalty, threats, penalty, and all that. But that is not a true morality. True morality comes from within. So the source of true morality comes from within. The source of true morality is nothing but your conscience. Source of true morality is nothing. So it is not so great point, and we need not to emphasize more than that. And yeah, it's all right. In such a manner, we have discussed almost the basic things, very basic, not basics, very basic things of ethics. And from next lecture, we will be discussing the theories of morality. I mean to say isms like hedonism, rationalism, perfectionism, intuitionism. Now we are going to discuss your isms, and the next lecture will be on the hedonism. Right now, just up to this one, up to this lecture, we have discussed the very basic of ethics. We are still in basics, but up to now we have discussed very basics, and now we are going to move the standard of conscience, standard of conscience is standard of reason. Just try to understand. Now it is going to be very interesting, and yeah, it's sufficient for today. It's enough, and okay, thank you everyone. Just try to understand and just come with along with my lecture. You will be able to understand each and every point. So thank you.